Hello there everybody, you're the idiots. My name is Supersonic Blur, and welcome back to the next episode of Professor Layton vs. Phoenix Wright. Last time, well, we actually saw what Inquisitor Layton was going to be capable of, and kind of been guiding us a little bit. They've not been letting us push too hard into a potential blunder in which Darklaw would easily be able to squirm out of, and after a lot of pressing and prodding and poking of Darklaw, and all the lies they used to wriggle out of it, Kira had enough, and so betrayed their trust, or rather, broke their silence. And now we must learn what it means to be a Shade, as Darklaw is claiming to be one. Shades live outside the realm of those who dwell within Labyrinthia. To them, I am known as the Great Witch. Those who are put to the flames in the witch's trials become Shades, who live their lives in the woods. We exist to carry out our task given to us by our mistress, the Great Witch herself. I am not a witch, nor am I a wandering spirit.
What on earth? High Inquisitor Darklaw? Do you mean to say that not only are you a witch, but you're the Great Witch?
Unbelievable. Lady Darklaw is the Great Witch?
The Great Witch? Doesn't that mean she's Bezella? That's right. Lady Darklaw is Bezella.
I do hope you have not forgotten what we established only moments ago. It is not possible for Miss Darklaw to be Bezella.
But, Inquisitor Layton, surely the testimony just now proves it.
I'm afraid that in the heat of such revelations, you have all misheard the information. It is pointless. This is the extent of what the people of this town will believe. I believe the truth will become clear during our cross-examination. Don't you agree, Mr. Wright?
Yeah. Defender, you may begin your interrogation.
The Shades. Shades live outside the realm of those who dwell within Labyrinthia. To them I am known as the Great Witch.
What the fuck does that mean? Great Witch?
Yes, that's right. However, I am not Bezella. The mistress to those who dwell in the Eldritch Woods is dubbed the Great Witch. Even if I wanted to be Bezella, I couldn't. As the ever-so-charming Inquisitor stated earlier, I cannot use magic. Miss Darklaw, I have one question. What do you mean by live outside the realm? I mean just that, Inquisitor. We truly do live in a realm separate from this town. Now surely one as intelligent as yourself has worked out the answer by now, no? Perhaps. That remains to be seen, Miss Darklaw. Regardless, 'tis something we cannot discuss with anyone. But it is something that the defense should be able to prove. That almost sounds like a challenge. By the way, Miss Darklaw, since you're not actually a witch, why do you continue to be called that? To answer that, I must first discuss the true identity of the Shades. Those that are put to the flames in the witch trials become Shades who live their lives in the woods.
Hold it!
So, you're saying that Kira here is now a Shade version of the Kira from before? I'm gonna sneeze. Am I? No. Oh, I did that thing where, you know how you get like the sneeze, and it's like, you feel it in your nose, and then it goes from like a tickling to like a burning, and it's like, oh, I'm not gonna sneeze anymore. That's awful. Indeed, Defender. The girl has no recollection of her life prior to living in those woods.
What manner of witchery is this? Why, this girl, Kira the flower seller, was cast straight to the flames before our very eyes.
That's right, Your Honor. But, as you can see, she didn't die. You see, there's actually a trick to the incineration device in the witch's court.
A trick?
Once the verdict has been delivered, the court attendants move the steel cage into position, after which it seals shut. Then, the cages drop down into a pit of fire. The bottom of the cage then opens, allowing the witch inside to escape unharmed into an underground passage.
If what you're saying is true, Defender, then what of this town's witch-purging history? What has been the purpose of all of this?
You and the knights have indeed been ridding Labyrinthia of witches. However, nary a single life has been taken in the process. That is the reality. Then, what about the fire pit behind you that was going to use to burn Isabella Cantabella?
But you cannot truly expect me to believe such a ridiculous notion.
Your Honor, it's true! Take a good hard look. He doesn't get any more alive than this.
It's you. Eye of May.
Close enough. Well, it's actually my affair, your forgetfulness. What the heck are you doing? Everyone's gonna recognize you. Yeah, but seeing is believing, Nick. Now they have to believe you. Do you see? Are you satisfied? All those found guilty in the witch trials lose their names, magic, and memory. They are then sent to spend their lives as shades in the Eldritch Woods. And the mistress of those shades is the Great Witch. As you can see, this girl too has become a shade.
I have no more words to express my utter disbelief at this situation.
That's enough. Shall we return to the testimony? Why do I have the feeling things are going to get a lot worse? We exist to carry out our tasks given to us by our mistress, the Great Witch herself.
Hold it!
These tasks you mention, were you acting on them this evening? Yes. I was told to come here and become Bezella.
Wait just a moment, witness. Did you just say become Bezella?
My, how absolutely dreadful. Why would anyone be given such a terrible task? Where have these shades come from?
Order! Order!
I'm sorry. I don't know why I was given such a task. All I can do is follow the orders I am given. If I can do that, then I can return. What do you mean by you can return? Such is the nature of the shades. Neither human nor witch. Theirs is an existence spent in the shadows. Each of the shades is given specific tasks. Then, upon successfully completing such tasks, they are allowed to return to Labyrinthia as brand new people.
But, Lady Darklaw, how can they return as brand new citizens? When we already know who they were. For instance, we all recognize the former flower seller standing before us.
Now that, my lord, remains a secret. But a secret that you will come to understand sooner rather than later.
Simply baffling.
The one who gives us our tasks is the Great Witch. That would be you, Lady Darklaw. I mean, oh, magnificent one.
While this explanation is wrought with much I cannot comprehend, I request the witness added to their testimony.
Okay. Lady Darklaw was our venerable mistress. She assigned us our tasks. She was the Great Witch.
Hold it!
So about these tasks, can you give us any other examples? A shade's task must never be discussed with others, no matter what, but you've already discussed it with others. She says that even though she's just finished telling us all about her secret task. Incidentally, do you perhaps remember when you arrived back in town to carry out your orders? Well, not really. My memory is still a little fuzzy. Say, didn't Kira only just recently become one of those shade thingies? Still, I
I failed in my task tonight. Think of it. When Luke and I had our little run-in with Kira, I remember being blown clear across the marketplace, but I never saw any explosives or gunpowder or anything. Maybe Kira was given the task of blowing you to smithereens, Nick. And we're done. Getting back onto this testimony, I'm sure there's something here that just doesn't add up. I am not a witch, nor am I a wandering spirit. No, you're a wandering spirit. You really don't have any recollection of your old flower-selling self, do you? I don't. When a witch becomes a shade, they lose all memory of their past life. They lose their memories? But why? And yet, you still have some grasp of the concept of magic, do you not, witness? Let me spell it out for you. Magic does not exist in the Eldritch Woods. Oh, but there are actually lots of things back in the forest that I have not seen in this town. There are things that you haven't seen here? Like really huge machines, that sort of thing. There's one that spits out fire with such amazing speed and that expels these huge plumes of grey smoke. A machine that spits fire? Never have I heard of such a thing. Are you certain that these machines of which you speak are not simply magic? No, now that you mention it, I don't think anyone from this town can actually see those of us from the forest. That they can't see you. Could it be something like that robe? How could such a thing even be possible without magic?
Objection.
Miss Darklaw, if I may interrupt for just a moment. What is it, Inquisitor Layton? Throughout your testimony just now, we have all come to understand the process of how one becomes a shade. However, I was hoping you could perhaps elaborate on one additional point. Namely, what exactly is the purpose behind the shades? If you wish to know our purpose, there are certain other things you must first understand. Once you've done that, the answer should be quite clear. Isn't that right, Defender? The purpose behind the shades? Rest assured, you will not get the answer from me. As the saying goes, the witch is in your court, Defender. Sounds like Darklaw's challenging me to figure this one out. Challenge accepted. There is but one true purpose of the shades that dwell within the Eldritch Woods.
Hold it!
Miss Darklaw, what is the purpose of the shades? For fuck's sake, Phoenix. As mistress to the shades, I cannot disclose the purpose of their existence. Well then, since Miss Darklaw is unable to tell us herself, it seems we must rely on evidence instead. Evidence, huh? I do believe the shades could have something to do with that which exists in this town but ought not to. Something that exists but shouldn't? Well, Defender, are you prepared to present evidence? I'm prepared, Your Honor. I was born ready, Your Honor. Something that exists in this town but shouldn't. I think I know what you're getting at, Professor. Defender, please present your evidence. Yes, Your Honor. The purpose of the shades could be to make this particular thing exist in Labyrinthia. Literally any magic, all magic, everything we've seen here shouldn't make sense.
Take that!
Something that doesn't exist. I have a feeling no one is going to like the answer I'm about to give, and it'll probably end up shaking this town to its core. But I've got to tell them. The truth has to come out.
Since I arrived here in Labyrinthia, there's been no shortage of really strange events. Ignace, Demir, Godor, Goldor, and now Grandworm. The mere command of magic is in itself a crime, is it not? In this town, witches are arrested and made to participate in witch trials. They are then sentenced to death by fire. But none of those witches actually died. That supposed death by fire wasn't real. And neither is magic, nor does it really exist.
What are you saying, Defender?
The Eldritch Woods apparently contain some rather large machines unlike anything that exists within Labyrinthia. Machines that emit fire and produce large plumes of smoke. To top it all off, the citizens of Labyrinthia are not able to see said machines.
It sounds like nothing more than magic.
Yes, that's exactly it, Your Honor. Miss Darklaw. Magic doesn't really exist in this town. That's the answer, isn't it?
Magic does not... What utter nonsense!
But it seems we have finally arrived at the stunning conclusion. The secret behind Labyrinthia.
What? Sir! Order, I say! What is the meaning of this?
It means that all of the magic you've seen in this town was nothing more than an illusion created and put into motion by the Shades.
But Defender, the witches, we have clearly seen them use magic.
Have we? Let us take a moment to think carefully about the systems employed by the Shades.
Systems?
What is essential in order for a witch to use magic? Well, a witch must possess a Telea Magica, and must say an incantation in order to cast a spell. And the spells are able to be cast are determined by the scepter's magic gems. Now, what do you think is the purpose of placing such requirements on the use of magic?
Well, what do you mean, purpose?
These requirements are not there to allow the user to cast magic. Rather, the reality is that they are there to inform the Shades of who should be using magic. It is possible that witches were always being closely observed by Shades. That is why they don these robes, to appear hidden until they are needed to create magic.
Create?
Indeed. There are all kinds of spells within this tome. It would be quite troublesome if they were simply allowed to use any spell at will. Yeah, it would make the Shades' job that much more difficult for sure. Precisely so. That is why it is imperative that a certain restriction be placed on the use of magic. Ah, you're referring to the Telea Magica, right, Professor?
Well, of course. No wonder the scepter could contain only 2 magic gems.
Then there is the incantation. What would happen if a witch could simply whisper the incantation quietly to herself, or not even say it at all? Wait, that'd sure be cool. I'd be casting spells all day long, and no one would ever see it coming. Maya, we spent an entire tribal proving that you weren't a witch, remember? Anyway, if the witches did give some sort of signal, then there would be no way for the Shades to know when to cast these spells. Right you are, Mr. Wright. The incantations were a way of telling the Shades when the witches were ready to use the magic.
What on earth? Never did I think these requirements could have such a purpose.
Gotta think a little bit more about this. Now, let us think back to the previous events leading up to today that have involved magic. Our first encounter with magic was the use of the spell Ignace a few nights ago. A spell like this was nothing more than a flame spewed from a machine being used by the Shades.
Then that means Demir?
A spell that makes the caster disappear. No doubt about it. It must have been this robe.
Next is the incantation Goldor, a spell that transmuted me into a gold statue. While I understand this may sound a bit absurd, I can only surmise the shades created a gold statue in my image, took me and left in my place. The incantation left it in my place. The instant the incantation was uttered. Professor, it's no more absurd than anything else that's happened so far. We can therefore conclude that all of the magic in Labyrinthia was created in a similar vein. What do you say to that, Miss Darklaw? I'd expect nothing less from you, Inquisitor Layton. Hey! At any given time, there are between 5 and 10 witches in town. All of the witches were accompanied by shades at all times. It was easier than you'd think. You see, the shades living in the Eldritch Woods total in the hundreds. It was simply a matter of having each of them shades operate in shifts in order to watch over each of the witches within the town. I must say, Lady Darklaw, that is quite a number of shades. 'Twas only those who fell victim to the flames that were turned into shades. But their victims too were made permanent residents of the Eldritch Woods. Then those two shady thieves from before were turned into shades? Ah, yes, you mean Robs and Mugs. Despite their dubious appearances, those two were a couple of my best shades. Shady thieves turned into shades. This stuff writes itself. I cannot believe what I have heard. Yeah. I mean, it does make sense. Think about it. Everyone in the town who was ever cast into the flames turning into it, that means a thing. But if everyone who was ever turned into it, if this is a closed system, eventually you'd just run out of people. However, there is still one thing I do not understand just yet. And what would that be? As has just been explained, we have established that there is no possibility of magic being real. But replacing me with a gold statue to give the illusion of transmutation, for example, while it sounds simple enough, I myself, and presumably also Miss Fay, have no recollection of this replacement actually taking place. Hey, that's right! The Professor got all blingy-blingy before I could even bat an eye. It begs the question, how and when was that statue created, let alone used to replace me? That is true. The same goes for Godor. It supposedly creates a portal between two green-colored walls. Perhaps that is exactly why the spell can only work on green walls, Mr. Wright. Still, it'd be impossible for the shades to just get these portals ready so quickly. I agree. If we take a moment to think, we can see that all of these spells have one strange thing in common. A thing in common? Yes, indeed. Almost as if some time between the start and end of the incident was unaccounted for. Furthermore, any memory I might have regarding the incident seems to have simply disappeared in the process. I've got it, Nick. It's just like what happened to Kira. She got absolutely no memory of her life in Labyrinthia before the trial, right? Yes, I do not remember this Kira you speak of. And, oh yeah, when you really think about it, doesn't it seem super weird how the Shades are all able to return to town if they complete their tasks? You're right, Maya. I mean, the townsfolk are bound to remember some things about them, right? Like how Miss Kira here threw a major hissy fit in court and was barbecued for being a witch? Eloquently put, Mr. Wright. Hence, we cannot yet conclude that this entire illusion was primarily accomplished through the use of machinery. Simply put, there must have been some other way of affecting the memories of those within the confines of this town. Missing time and lost memories. Now that is interesting, Inquisitor. You are correct. There is in fact a secret that lies within the depths of the Eldritch Woods. Something that the people of this town cannot see. Something that can rob people of their time and memories.
'Tis the very thing that connects all of what you have heard here tonight. 'Tis a secret of monumental proportions. And, let me guess, it is a secret that cannot be revealed by the mistress of the Eldritch Woods. Is that right? Yes. An excellent deduction, Defender. No. There's a problem here. There's a problem here.
Witches' souls wander astray within the Eldritch Woods. Until tonight, I thought this nothing but a mere fairy tale told to children. But it has become clear that a seemingly large organization lies within that forest.
The Witch's Court is the border between this world and the other world. Then that means, in this world, you're Labyrinthia's High Inquisitor, whilst also being mistress to the Shades in the other world, otherwise known as the Great Witch. May I intervene for just a moment, Mr. Wright?
Sure.
In all honesty, there is still something that sticks out as a little odd. Particularly in Miss Darklaw's previous testimony.
Did you say the previous testimony? I'd already pushed that out of my head.
There was one vital truth that we managed to take away from that testimony.
You mean that magic does not truly exist in Labyrinthia? Indeed, quite the vital, albeit shocking, truth.
However, there is one more truth hidden within that same testimony.
There's something else in that testimony? I checked the court record more times than I can count, but I didn't find a single other contradiction.
Have you forgotten already, Mr. Wright? When there is no evidence left, we have but one more weapon at our disposal with which to uncover the truth.
Oh, hey! I've got it, Nick! Remember in a witch trial, you can cross-examine two witnesses at the same time? Hey, that's right! I completely forgot! Being able to have a look at two testimonies side by side is bound to turn up a contradiction somewhere.
That contradiction should provide us with a much-needed clue.
I'm not entirely sure where the professor is going with this, but I believe in his judgment. Besides, if we're going to blow this case wide open, it's got to be worth a shot. Very well, we will now take a closer look at Lady Darklaw's previous testimony.
This is it, Miss Darklaw's previous testimony. There is a glaring contradiction between this piece of testimony and the others. Ready yourself, Mr. Wright.
The Shades live outside the realm. To them, I am known as the Great Witch. Lady Darklaw was our venerable mistress. She assigned our tasks. She was the Great Witch. Your Honor, there is obviously a huge discrepancy between these two pieces of testimony. Miss Darklaw stated that she is known as the Great Witch. However, according to Miss Kira's testimony, Miss Darklaw was her venerable mistress, the Great Witch.
That is correct. She was the Great Witch. Note Miss Kira's use of the past tense.
Past tense? I'm afraid my grammar is not quite what it used to be. May I ask what you mean?
It's simple. Miss Darklaw was mistress to the Shades, or as they call her, the Great Witch. Therefore, she is no longer the Great Witch.
She is not the Great Witch. Witness, is this true?
It is as you have heard, my lord.
I relinquished my position as the Great Witch in order to fulfill the objective of this task. What would that objective be again?
That would be the assassination of the storyteller, Your Honor.
Witness, at the beginning of this trial, you stated, that you came to town in order to complete your task, didn't you? What's more, you said that you were going to summon the fire dragon to do it. Now this task, it wasn't Miss Darklaw that gave you it, was it? No, it wasn't. So then, the most pressing question is, who was it that gave you your task? Who told you to come to Labyrinthia and assassinate the storyteller? I cannot tell you, no matter what. Alright, so Darklaw isn't the Great Witch anymore. Which must mean the mastermind behind this entire thing is... It would seem that the defense has worked it out as well. Mr. Wright, you know who really gave Kira her task Mr. Wright, you know who really gave Miss Kira her task tonight, do you not? Defender, I ask that you enlighten the court. Show us who really gave this witness her task to assassinate the storyteller. That would be...
Take that!
The storyteller? We're talking about someone with the authority and power to replace the Great Witch. Someone who calls the shots. I can't think of anyone else that meets this criteria except for the storyteller himself. Preposterous! Then that would mean that... Exactly, Your Honor. It means that the storyteller gave his final task to Kira himself. He was, in short, responsible for his own assassination. What? Order in the court, but for what purpose? Why would he plan his own assassination? That I cannot say, Your Honor. However, the final chapter of this story does tell of his inevitable death. While he assigned the task to Kira himself, it is perfectly natural that he would do so. However, what is not natural is your behavior tonight, Miss Darklaw. What was unnatural about High Inquisitor's behavior? You were once the head of all the Shades, and yet tonight you tried to interfere with the storyteller's plan. You rendered Miss Kira unconscious and locked her away in the belfry of the bell tower. That, to me, seems like the activity of someone aiming to put a stop to his plan altogether. Indeed, Lady Darklaw. What would be the reason for such behavior? I leave that to you, Mr. Wright. Based on what we've seen in this trial, the defense believes that Miss Darklaw's reason for covering up her actions tonight can only be attributed to one thing. His plan was handed down by the storyteller himself. Miss Darklaw was definitely aiming to put a wrench in it, but why? She tried to betray the storyteller. There's one possible reason I can think of as to why Miss Darklaw had to hide her actions tonight. She was aiming to betray the storyteller. Betray the storyteller? I agree, Mr. Wright. The storyteller used the Great Witch Bezella to take his own life. Instructions to carry out the plan were given to Miss Kira. However, Miss Darklaw planned to intervene and change the scenario at the very last minute. She planned to do so by changing the identity of the Great Witch from Miss Kira to Miss Cantabella. Thus bringing us to our current situation, Miss Cantabella on trial for the murder of her father at the hands of Bezella. You, Miss Darklaw, seem to harbour a rather strong hatred for the storyteller, if I am not mistaken. A hatred, you say? Yes, I suppose you could call it that. That's right. Behold, my revenge. Did you say revenge? Miss Darklaw, will you please tell the court your plan for revenge? If you insist. The High Inquisitor, and also the Great Witch. Long have I donned those two masks, once as one as Labyrinthia's protector, the other its harbinger of destruction. In other words,
I was merely meant to serve him. And yet, he sought to selfishly pen the ending of the story under his own terms. He did not care enough about me, or any of the townspeople, to allow us the dignity of deciding our own fate. Indeed, what we witnessed tonight was the cowardly act of a man looking for an easy way to end that which he could not properly finish. He cared for none but himself, hence his sudden sham of an ending. And for that, I will never forgive him. What do you mean by sham of an ending? The Great Witch Bezella is to summon a dragon of fire and end the life of the creator. She will then be put on trial and judged, thus heralding a period of peace and prosperity for all of Labyrinthia. Such is the ending written for this town and its people. 'Tis not an ending I oppose in principle. Who would not wish a happy ending for their own people? However, the problem lies in Bezella's identity. Bezella's identity? As you know, he assigned the role of the Great Witch to this girl beside me. But you're saying that was a falsehood, is that correct? I knew Bezella's true identity. 'Tis not something I could ever forget. That is why I went to the bell tower, and it is why I took the accused there. I did it to ensure the true witch foretold in the story was given the judgment she was due.
The true witch? You don't mean...
Yes, I speak of none other than Ispella Cantabella. What do you mean by that? That doesn't make any sense. Miss Darklaw, there is a glaring contradiction in your statement, though. And what would that be? It's supposedly common knowledge that Bezella is capable of using all magic. However, that is far from the truth. Magic does not actually exist in this town. It was all one giant illusion created by the Shades. Therefore, the Great Witch Bezella cannot exist either. Yeah. You fool. Defender, you really don't have a clue, do you?
But wait just a minute now. Is the defender not correct? If magic does not exist, then it goes without saying that witches do not exist either. That would include the Great Witch, would it not?
That's right. They've been lying to us this whole time? Bastards! Bezella isn't real!
Objection.
Mr. Wright, there is a fundamental mistake in your argument. What do you mean? I have but one simple question. What exactly is Bezella? Huh? Well, she's supposed to be the head of all witches. No. Allow me to reword the question. The Great Witch Bezella is the root of all disaster within Labyrinthia. Knowing that, what specific disaster might she have been the root of? That would be, just thought of something. We've been hearing Bezella's name left, right, and center since we got here, but not once has the real Bezella actually shown up in person. Indeed, Miss Faye. Bezella herself has been virtually absent from the story thus far.
Inquisitor, did she not claim the life of the storyteller tonight?
It would appear so, Your Honor. However, there is just one more thing. Consider this. Which particular story is every citizen of Labyrinthia most familiar with? Well, that would have to be the legendary fire, right? Precisely.
Surely you're not serious. As the name implies, that is but a mere legend. No one knows for certain if it occurred.
So they say, but the reality is that there are still traces of that terrible fire within the town today. The Professor's right. We've even seen some of it up close and personal. Yeah, at the Great Archive. You are indeed correct, Inquisitor. Littered throughout the town are burnt remnants of a fire most fierce. However, no one can say for certain what transpired back then, so you see, not a soul saw what actually happened. Let me see if I have this straight here, Nick. There's an entire town full of people, and no one saw what happened? Correct. Except for one particular person. What? There is one person who saw everything. I am speaking, of course, of the one responsible for the fire itself. The Great Witch Bezella. Yes. I remember it. All of it. Isabella, what are you saying? When I close my eyes, I can picture it so vividly. The awful sight of the flames engulfing everything they touched. The scorching heat on my skin. The smell of burning cinder all around me. The large plumes of black smoke. The warm tears streaming down my face. I remember it all. What you are recalling now is the moment the Great Witch Bezella destroyed our town. Well, it appears my role here is finished. As for the rest, I leave it in your capable hands, Inquisitor. Huh? Darklaw, she just vanished into thin air. She's right. These memories are proof that I am Bezella. But Isabella! Mr. Wright. Remember, if you will, what I said at the beginning of this trial. I came here to prove that Isabella Cantabella is in reality the Great Witch Bezella. Right. There is still one more thing I wish to present to the court. I would now like to call the final witness to the stand. The final witness? Indeed.
Hold it!
Welcome. The return. Ah, it would appear he has arrived. Love that shot. Ladies and gentlemen of the court, I give you this trial's final witness, the storyteller. He had to get through all those bloody puzzles going down. And just like that he appeared, the man who died not hours before. The victim of this very trial, the storyteller himself. This sure chose one heck of a final witness. Morning is drawing closer and closer. How this trial will end is anyone's guess. That is something for next time. Unfortunately, this will not be the final episode, because still a couple more. I may have underestimated how long this final chapter goes on, but like they said, to be continued, and to be continued is exactly what will be done. If you have enjoyed this episode of Professor Layton versus Phoenix Wright, then do be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more, and to share this stuff so people know that it exists. You guys have been a fantastic audience, and I shall see you all next time.